Welcome to the AnyLogic Company Vendor Second Track. The topic today is AnyLogic Cloud, an integrated environment for the entire model lifecycle. My name is Gregory Monakov and I am Senior Customer Support Engineer. Over the next 20 minutes, we will walk you through our cloud and server-based execution environment called AnyLogic Cloud and show how it can be used in the model lifecycle. In the Q&A section, my colleague Alexander Rakolenko, head of the AnyLogic Cloud development team, will join us. Let's start with the term simulation model lifecycle and what we understand as a model lifecycle. It consists of two linked parts, development and usage. In the model development stage, you construct a model from concept and coding to validation. Once you have a minimum viable product, one that can be used, you can design experiments, a graphical interface and dashboards, integrate the model with other apps like data visualization software, and so on. There is a more or less strict border between model execution or usage and model development. Previously, we could say that only model execution was in the cloud. With the presentation of AnyLogic 9 yesterday on our vendor track, we can now truly say the entire model lifecycle is moving to the cloud or server environment. AnyLogic Cloud is a family of products that provide a cloud and server-based model execution environment. The first product, simply AnyLogic Cloud, is our software as a service solution at cloud.anylogic.com, the free portal of AnyLogic models. Anyone in the world can run models as easily as a YouTube video from any device with a web browser. The portal hosts more than 7,000 user models that have a combined total of 40,000 experiments and more than 10 million unique runs. AnyLogic Private Cloud is a group of products that install on client infrastructure. They do not require connection to the external web and clients have complete control over the cloud data and internal connections. In addition, the products provide tools for custom branding and the hosting of the custom web interfaces. With the custom branding features, the cloud can be turned into your private cloud. The Enterprise Edition of AnyLogic Cloud allows for an unlimited number of execution nodes in your cluster, providing effective computational resource utilization, load balancing, and redundancy. Cloud Lite, on the other hand, is for just one powerful execution node. It can be easily installed by any user with just one click. In a moment, we will install Cloud Lite and have a play with it. For now, let's have a look at the most common cloud features, such as running models and collecting outputs, using our software as a service solution at cloud.anylogic.com. Here is the main page of the portal. Models uploaded by various users worldwide are clickable and runnable. For your convenience, models are grouped by category. You can tag them, you can search them, you can sort them, and so on. Let's run the distribution center model. It's an average site ZC model with 3D animation and interactive controls. After pressing a play button, the cloud starts running the model on its site, and my device renders the model animation in my web browser. It is completely interactive. I can navigate through the 3D animation, switch model tabs, let's check its 2D animation, statistics, orders and progress, and the model logic. Let's accumulate some statistics by running the model at its max speed. Utilization of the forklifts is close to 100%, so we definitely need to increase their number. This can be done on the first step. With this slider, I can change the number of forklifts and new forklifts instantly appear in the home location and start working. The statistics tab shows me updated values, and now utilization should be much better. Besides the model run with animation, you may wish to run the model as fast as possible and just collect the model outputs. For this purpose, the cloud provides a model dashboard for inputs and outputs where you can find which inputs lead to which outputs. The cloud has a built-in database that stores all model runs. So if you change a model's inputs, the cloud searches for the corresponding results and doesn't run the model again if they are found. The cloud product has many more cool features. Let's discover a few more using the private cloud. To make the demo more enjoyable, imagine a story about two entrepreneurs who are testing the AnyLogic company's products. Wilbur and Orville Wright are evaluating AnyLogic's capabilities for testing various airplane layouts with the aim of improving boarding times. They are constantly traveling around the world to show clients their concepts and share models and results with them. Also, they plan to use artificial intelligence for playing with layouts and searching for optimal boarding strategies. Lastly, they want to store their intellectual property in a secure location on their PC. Wilbur noticed that AnyLogic Private Cloud Lite can solve all these challenges, so he checked the system requirements, downloaded the fully functional evaluation version, and installed it on his 16GB 8-core Ubuntu system. The product comes inside an archive. After unpacking and navigating to the installation folder, Wilbur opens a terminal and executes a single command to run the installation script. Then he inputs the cloud address, cloud.write.brothers, skips the license server and HTTPS features as he doesn't need them during evaluation, and lets the installer to do its job. Wilbur has a couple of minutes for a cup of coffee. When the installer is finished, Wilbur enjoys his brand new private cloud in a Google Chrome tab. Here, Wilbur notices the product is GDPR compliant and then logs in to the built-in admin account and sees an empty AnyLogic Private Cloud graphical interface. To administrate the cloud, he opens the admin panel and can see general info about the cloud, such as health report, the version number, evaluation expiration date, and so on. Wilbur wants to create accounts for himself and for his brother Orville, so he goes to the User tab and creates the accounts using the intuitive interface. Once the accounts are created, Wilbur wants to brand the product with the right company logo and style. For this purpose, he explores the Customization tab and changes logo mark, logo type, and favicon. He previews the changes and apply them, resulting in right cloud branding instead of AnyLogic's. Next, Wilbur clicks the Notes, Services and Tasks tab, where each product component status is shown. Most useful is the Running Tasks page, where Wilbur can monitor the cloud load, observe how many execution cores are available, and terminate them on demand. Finally, the Notes page shows how many nodes are involved in the cloud environment. Wilbur has installed Cloud Lite, so he sees just one node as expected. His last step here is to remove default admin account and log in as Wilbur Wright. Now it's time to run some models in the cloud. Wilbur has found a helpful aircraft boarding model which he plans to enhance in the future and use for testing different aircraft layouts and boarding strategies. Initially, he tests the model using the number of passengers and the percentage of passengers with luggage as model inputs and boarding time as model output. On the desktop, the model runs fine, so Wilbur uploads it to the cloud. For this purpose, he opens Tools menu, selects Connection tab, and enables his private cloud, and then chooses an option to export the model to the cloud. The model with animation plays as expected, so Wilbur is happy. But the experiment dashboard is empty. It seems Wilbur forgot to specify model inputs and outputs while exporting it to the cloud. No problem, Wilbur. You can enable the respective inputs and outputs and export the model again. Now, he has two versions of the same model in the cloud. They are automatically organized in the version tab where he can view and download sources of each version. The second model version has a populated dashboard, so Wilbur runs the experiments and gets the respective output. Happy Wilbur wants to share the model with Orville, who will design and experiment with the model. Wilbur goes to the Sharing tab and invites Orville, so he will be able to open the model after login. After that, Wilbur observes the other tabs, Custom, UI and Comments. In the comments, he describes to Orville which experiments are required. The Custom UI tab is a little bit mysterious, and it seems to be a part of the Cloud API. Wilbur decides to learn this part later, because the API is another large topic. Now it's Orville's turn. After receiving the message from Wilbur, he logs into the cloud and starts his journey through the Cloud Experiments framework. Since his main objective is to compare different boarding patterns, he wants to test the comparison feature first. For this purpose, he needs two experiments, one with the luggage ratio equals to 0 and one with the luggage ratio equals to 1. After getting the results of both experiments, Orville clicks the comparison button, chooses the respective experiments, and easily compares the results. Orville knows the boarding time value is stochastic, and that is because of this that Wilbur asked him to conduct Monte Carlo experiments. Orville creates the experiments with 40 replications and a luggage ratio equal to 0. 40 runs take some time. The experiment is divided into 8 batches which are executed on all 5 executors. While the experiment is running, Orville checks the admin panel where he can observe the cloud load. Once the executors are released, the experiment is done and Orville can observe how boarding time is distributed among runs. It takes from 8 to 10 minutes. Then, Orville conducts a similar experiment with the luggage ratio equals to 1, clicks the comparison button, and observes the results of the two different Monte Carlo experiments in the same chart. Although it is convenient to view the results through the built-in dashboard, Orville wants to extract them for post-processing. To export the experiment results, Orville downloads an Excel file where all input and output data is stored. Based on the data, the cloud dashboard builds the respective histogram. To get all the run results from all the experiments, Orville also downloads a JSON file which can be used as an input for various data visualization software. Here Orville can find the meta inputs such as experiment ID and his own user inputs such as a luggage ratio. Similarly, he can observe outputs and meta outputs of all of his experiments. Orville's final task is to check the Cloud API. Orville finds the online Cloud API documentation and chooses the Python API because he plans to integrate Python AI libraries with his model. To test the API, Orville takes some sample code from the documentation. Access to the model is granted by an API key, which can be found in the profile settings. Orville copies the key and pastes it in his Python script. Along with the key, he uses his cloud name, model name, experiment name, and output name. Once all the names are checked, Orville runs the Python script and he is glad to see the result as expected. After studying the AnyLogic Cloud API docs, Orville understood that the custom UI tab in his private cloud relates to the JavaScript API and to custom web application development. An example of a custom web app is also available as part of the documentation. In a web application, you can implement literally any graphical interface for your models. The example features a small job shop with conveyors, racks, and automatically guided vehicles, all of which can be configured through the interface. After setting the inputs, application users can control the model's execution directly from the model app. For instance, he can change the number of vehicles and their maximum speed. Also, the model output data can be extracted in real time and visualized in the custom web application. With the Wright brothers story, we studied just a couple of the cloud's product use cases. But let's sum up all the cases. Operational usage, model delivery to clients, user and user access management, high-performance parallel execution, training and testing AI agents, building truly distributed simulations, and designing your own software as a service solution on top of the AnyLogic private cloud product. Before we go to the Q&A session, for your convenience, the last slide shows the AnyLogic Cloud product family and its key features. Thank you for your attention. Please feel free to ask any questions about the specific products or about the technology in general.
Welcome to the Q&A session of the AnyLogic vendor track. If you experience issues with sound, please write a message in the chat. Okay, thank you for every attendee here. I see all of them are from the same company. It's great to have such colleagues who always track the company's vendor tracks. And if you have any questions about the cloud roadmap, cloud features, maybe you want some support with the cloud installations or cloud experience, you can ask the questions in the chat right now. Maybe you have some feedback about the video or about the use cases, so you can also do it in chat. And for now, I suppose I'll share my screen and we'll cover the cloud use cases in details. Okay, so I hope everyone sees the presentation. So great, we covered 7 use cases of the cloud, and let's discuss each of the case in details. So the first case is about operational usage. It was covered during the video, but why this way is preferred to the good old way of sharing your models as a standalone Java application? Just because it is a Java application, you have to send it and launch it locally. You cannot do it remotely without having some specific software. You cannot do it with the web browser only. You have to launch it through the remote desktop or some TeamViewer app or something else similar to these technologies. And of course, if you have issues with Java, if you have issues with your hardware or something else, you have to deal with it at your own or ask your system administrator to assist you. So it's much more time consuming and less convenient than sharing of the models in the cloud. And here we cover only the case when you run the model or somebody else run the model. In case if there are several users, for instance, if you send a model to your client as a consulting company, you develop the model for your client. In case if it is a large company, there will be many users of the model and they will have to solve the same issues, but on a larger scale. And similarly here, the cloud provides much more convenient solution. You just need a web browser. You don't care about if someone else is running the model or not. So much more convenient. Finally, you don't need to have a powerful workstation and manage the model version on it. You don't need to ask your system administrator to support the model versioning database with the results and other stuff. All this is included in the cloud. In case if you have a really heavy experiments which take a lot of time, for instance, half of a day or more, then you can leverage the cloud for running the heavy experiments over such a model, for instance, Monte Carlo or parameter variation and maybe optimization experiments, because it will use all the cores available in your cloud and the number is not limited. So you can connect dozens of powerful servers with dozens of CPU cores on each server, and the cloud will run the heavy Monte Carlo experiments over all the cores of all the computers, resulting hundreds of parallel iterations at a time. The desktop computers cannot have hundreds of CPU cores, so obviously such experiments will run much faster in the cloud in comparison with classic desktop launch. Thanks to the cloud APIs, to the cloud JavaScript API, you can create your own software as a service solution on top of the cloud. In the video, there was an example of such software as a service solution, but of course you are not limited with the only model. You can create your own website with your own models portfolio. For instance, if you are a consulting company, your clients will be able to run any of your models, any of your projects from the browser, so it is very useful for advertising, for sharing the models, for writing blogs about it, and for other marketing activities, since the clients and potential clients will be able to run your models directly from the blog article or from anywhere in the web. They need only the web browser. And of course, you can brand your cloud as you want. So here, with the cloud API, you can do whatever you want. And the last but not least, it is about the AI training. We covered the cloud power when we were speaking about Monte Carlo, having Monte Carlo experiments. In the same way, if you want to train some artificial intelligence, some neural network, you have to run a lot of iterations. Cloud provides you the same powerful capabilities, running hundreds of parallel iterations at a time to increase the training process. Yeah, sorry, not the last one about AI, the last one about the distributed simulations. Thanks to the same cloud API, you can create distributed simulations. For instance, you have several models which and output of one model serves as input for another model. So in this case, you just need to write a couple of cloud API, JavaScript or Java or Python lines, and call one model, then extract its outputs and pass them to the second model. You can do it in parallel, you can do it sequentially, whatever you want. With a standalone application, it is much harder to do, because you have to run them in parallel, you have to synchronize them, you have to somehow launch them, and you have to manage the load of your desktop, because all the standalone applications are usually launched on the same PC. So if you launch too many of them, likely they will be executed too slowly or even crash. If you run them on the remote desktops, you have to somehow pass the inputs and outputs to several models on the different machines through the web or through the local network. So there are a lot of headache. The cloud solves all these issues, all you need to do is to call a couple of the Cloud API lines of code and nothing else. Yeah, so this is all 7 cases described in detail. So maybe you have some questions regarding the use cases. So let's check out the questions. Okay, it looks like we don't have any questions, and we have about 15 minutes or so. So Alex, maybe you have something to say about the cloud roadmap or something like this. Any insights for our users?
Well, what I wanted to add actually to the stuff you were saying is in regarding to the API, is that I know that for a long time our API was actually lacking Monte Carlo support, and it also lacked the variation with replication experiment type support. So this is the thing that we recently added, and I think that right now we're just polishing it, and I hope that we will be able to deliver the updated versions of the API client for Python and Java that would have the Monte Carlo and variation with replication support. I remember this was a question on the previous event where the DHL was making the presentation. So that was my highlight. I think other than that, the roadmap is like, as usual, I don't want to disclose a lot about the roadmap because sometimes I have to make the promises that I will have to break. So what I wanted to say that the first thing that we want to do in the next year is finish our work with the interruptible API experiment support, because we see this as the priority. And we actually had to move this in the current year because we had things to do with the basic, more basic API stuff. So I think the first thing would be the interruptible API. And I also think that we will continue working on the administrative panel, adding more features to the existing ones, like the ability to edit services and nodes. So people who want to install the full version of the cloud will have the option to add the nodes through the admin panel. So the full cloud installation would be a nicer process. It will look like the regular cloud installation, and then adding additional executor nodes or whatsoever. Also, we would definitely look into the LDAP support, and probably we will add the ability to import or export users using the admin panel as well, because this also was a requirement, and people asked for that. And if we're going to the LDAP, this is a logical thing to do. And I also think that there is some kind of the GDPR compliance requirement which needs you to provide the way to export user information. I'm not sure about that actually, but that was a question from our marketing department when we reviewed the GDPR compliance. Maybe you have any questions, Gregory?
Yeah, great plans, by the way, and thank you for the insights. I suppose you can also answer some, not truly answer, but provide your own opinion about the cloud scalability, because in my chatting with the clients, sometimes I hear that people do not want to install the cloud or to work with the cloud just because for them it is something really heavy. So they think that, oh no, I'm not the system administrator, I cannot install the cloud at my own, or oh, the cloud, I have just 3 clients and I can.
Well, I hear you. I think that first of all, it depends on the use cases that you see, because I think that there are people who use the AnyLogic Cloud more as a model gallery. In this case, it is enough to have a one-node Cloud Light installation. It will work fine if you just want to share your models or just have some simple runner functionality. If you really want to have a executional platform which will have the ability for like scaling, etc., and if you want to run some heavy experiments, then well, you should definitely go for the full version. And well, during this year, we worked a lot on our installation process and the configuration process. There's still plenty of things to do, but right now, I think it's easy enough to do. It's easy enough to add additional nodes. Yes, it still does require you to edit a configuration file, oh my, but I know folks who've done that and it was fun. And as I said before, we want to add this as an option in our administrative panel, so it would even be easier. And I'm not saying that this is going as a point in the roadmap in the next year, but I know that our software as a service version of the cloud has the ability for scaling, and it can run nodes dynamically. When the load is too high, it adds the nodes, and then when their nodes are idling, it removes them automatically to save the costs. Because, well, we run it in Amazon and they charge us per computer time. So probably we would add some possibilities to implement the scaling in the private cloud as well, because I know that there were like a few humble requests on that, like not critical, but still people were interested if this can be done in the full version of the cloud. And I think that well, this is something, it is a step to unifying our like two versions of the SaaS and the private version of the cloud, just allowing the private version to have some scaling backend scripts, because, well, people do install clouds on different platforms. It can be like Google on cloud platform, it can be Azure, and is not limited to Amazon. So I don't think that we will go to a hard-coded Amazon support like we do with the SaaS version, but probably be an option to specify some external utilities that do create new nodes and bring them down when they're idling.
Oh, great. And I suppose that we can say the cloud is already very simple for installing. So any user who knows how to install any desktop app can also install the cloud, but it is not as simple as managing the cloud. For instance, if you want to add new execution nodes, if you want to create a backup and restore scripts, if you want to do some daily backups and restore maybe cycles, if you want to I don't know, to manage users automatically and so on. So it is not as simple as install the cloud. And also the enterprise users wants also LDAP and other integration with enterprise software for security reasons. And as I can see, the cloud moves in both directions for satisfying the enterprise requirements such as LDAP and the personal requirements of people, of consultants who are not system administrators and who do not have system administrators in the companies just because they are too small, because the cloud administrator dashboard and other parts of the cloud web interface starts having the functionality which was previously possible only through the command lines and bash and some scripts, right?
Yeah, well, we want to be friendly to our users, definitely the case. To be honest, whenever I think about the customers who use cloud, I hope that they have Linux experience, because as a fellow Linux user, I I root for them. But anyways, I understand that specifically for the LED version of the cloud, it is definitely a case where somebody who installs the cloud doesn't have the hardcore command line experience. So right now we have our installation guide document, and well, it might require you a couple comments, but they're like heavily documented. In this year, we actually had a new member of our documentation team. So thank you, Igor. He managed to like make a really good sum of our documentation, and he is also working on providing a comprehensive administrator's guide. So this is what comes to being user-friendly. Other than that, I think like I already mentioned a couple of features that we want to add to the administrative panel. The things that we really think should go there in the next year would be also the ability to edit configuration values, because there were a couple of things that were hard-coded in the cloud code that we made configurable, and we're still going in this way. We will continue making more and more options configurable, because, well, different people have different use cases, different loads, and blah, blah, blah. So it would be nice to be able to tune your cloud. And so we will add the ability to edit them through the admin panel in the web interface.
Yeah, we have 2 minutes left, so maybe we will cover the topic about AnyLogic 9. So I suppose that the cloud and the AnyLogic 9 becomes the same product soon. And what are the parts in our roadmap here?
Well, if we're talking about the cloud side of the integration with the AnyLogic, we actually did some work on that. I know that the AnyLogic 9 is currently in like closed testing, right, phase. So I think that these points will change probably before their release, but currently we, in our like developers version of the cloud, we added the ability to provide the AnyLogic 9 address. So we added like the edit model button and the create model button. So this should be like a seamless integration where in the cloud you can create a new model or you can edit the existing one. And while there are a few technical details that probably will not be really interesting, but we're moving to using JWT tokens instead of the session cookies and stuff like that. So we will have to rethink a bit on our internal architecture to be able to like integrate with AnyLogic 9 smoothly. But this is our future. So
yeah, great. So one day the AnyLogic 9 will be in single product, which includes both AnyLogic Cloud capabilities for running the models. It doesn't matter locally or remotely in the cloud, or is it and AnyLogic 8 part when you develop your model, not only running it in the cloud. So it will be kind of AnyLogic 9 both IDE and cloud.
Well, honestly, Gregory, I think that this is a question more for the sales department, because technically we're ready to do both, and this is just...
Okay, great. So I see our time is over, and this is the last chance to ask some questions. Please raise your hands and write some questions to chat. Okay, I suppose it's time to finish our Q&A session. Thank you very much for attending, and we hope you'll enjoy using AnyLogic Cloud and other products of the AnyLogic company. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.